Alright, let's just dive right into this mess. What is agnosticism? By Robin Schumacher. What? Not Matt. It's not Matt Slick again. So it's going to be better automatically. Plus 5 points for not being Slick. So Robin Schumacher. I can't pronounce that last name. The origin of the term agnosticism. Thomas Henry Huxley was an English biologist who is nicknamed Darwin's Bulldog for his staunch support of Darwin's theory of evolution. Huxley is also credited with coining the term agnostic. Following in his footsteps, his grandson, Julian Huxley, wrote the following about when a person should assume a position of agnosticism. Quote, I believe that one should be agnostic when belief one way or the other is 1. Mere idle speculation incapable of verification, 2. When belief is held merely to gratify desires, however deep-seated, and not because it is forced upon us by evidence, and 3. When belief may be taken by others to be more firmly grounded than it really is, and so come to encourage false hopes or wrong attitudes of mind. End quote. Huxley felt that, quote, all our life long we are oscillating between conviction and caution, faith and agnosticism, belief and suspension of belief, end quote. A formal definition of Huxley's agnostic term today is, quote, a person who holds that the existence of the ultimate cause as God and the essential nature of things are unknown and unknowable, or that human knowledge is limited to experience, end quote. From this description, it can be said that an agnostic position is one where he says he does not know if God exists. Speaking more broadly, some agnostics state it is difficult to hold any truth with certainty. Well, Robin gets points for actually having a footnote at the end of the giant quote from Henry Huxley. So I'm going to assume that that leads to a source that actually confirms that that's what he actually said. Now, I would click on it, but right now I don't have access to the internet as I record this. So later on, I'll just put in an annotation on this video on whether or not that footnote actually was a citation. Usually at this point I'd be complaining about lack of citations, but it might be that, my goodness, Robin actually gave us one. So I've learned something. I thought agnosticism was older than Henry Huxley. I'm going to have to look that up independently and see if Henry Huxley is in fact the original person that came up with it, or if it predates him. I don't know. But this is actual information that I can trust on a social level, not on a pragmatic skeptical level. I'm going to be skeptical of it because I haven't yet done more research to make sure that what Robin is saying is true, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for this particular quotes. So, as far as agnosticism, don't know, kind of just can't know either way. Whenever I think about that, I just can't really say that I am an agnostic in that sense. Because the statement that we or I cannot know X, whatever that is a statement of certainty that I know that I can't know X. And how do I know that I cannot know that? Right now, I do not know about X, but that does not mean I can never know about X, or that we as a species will never know about X. So, in that sense, I'm not agnostic, but there are multiple definitions of agnosticism as it's come into common use, and we've changed it over time as a society, and we've kind of changed its meaning. So now it's more like an uncertainty position rather than we can't know position. But regardless, I would agree with all of these reasons to be agnostic, that Henry Huxley had put forth, that if it's idle speculation, you can't verify it. If it's just to gratify desires. In fact, I would say that I would have said, regardless of how you feel about the belief, maybe it makes you feel good, maybe it makes you feel bad, it doesn't matter, because what matters is the evidence. And, for the last one, I'm not really sure what to make of that one. Um, what other people think of that belief doesn't matter to me as much as the information and data available about the idea. Because lots and lots of people believe X is true, that doesn't mean X is true. What's the evidence for X being true? Types of agnosticism. Agnosticism typically takes one of two forms: hard and soft. The hard agnostic says that a person can't know anything for sure. However, this is a self-defeating position, as the hard agnostic says he knows for sure that he can't know anything for sure. Hard agnosticism simply has no container that can keep it universally solvent, and therefore becomes an unattainable position to hold and must be discarded. In contrast to hard agnosticism, the soft agnostic says she doesn't know anything for sure. At issue is not the lack of human ability for knowing a particular truth, but rather the agnostic struggles with how a truth claim can be verified or shown to be true. It is the ancient pursuit of what in philosophy is called epistemology. How do we know, and how do we know that we know? When the issue of determining the existence of the Christian God is added to the mix, things get even stickier. But perhaps that doesn't need to be the case. What if a person fully follows and applies Julian Huxley's criteria for determining when to be agnostic about a particular truth claim? What would be the end result when Huxley's measures are applied to the claims of the New Testament, and specifically in the account of Jesus Christ? Huxley's first conclusion is that a belief cannot be mere idle speculation or be incapable of verification. This first standard seems reasonable, as pure conjecture or hearsay should not be a basis for committing oneself to a belief. The second condition appears logical also, and is sometimes termed the principle of falsification, which was used by philosophers such as Anthony Flew in his initial writings on religion. Alright, logical fallacy counter, you can take a break. There's nothing to see here, I guess. Hard agnosticism. I never heard that term before. So, I don't know, is that nihilism? Is that being a nihilist, maybe? And as far as... This is the thing that I have kind of an issue with in regards to statements that you can't really hold that position, sort of statements. Philosophically speaking, fill in the blank. So, philosophy, the love of knowledge, the study of knowledge, however you want to look at the word philosophy. So, I know that I don't know anything. That's the only thing I do know. Okay, the only statement that is true is this statement. All other statements are false. Okay? I can set up a statement that is immune from the criticism that it destroys itself paradoxically. The only thing that I know is that I know nothing else except for the fact that I know nothing except for this idea. So, there you go. Now it's immune from that paradox. Well, you don't know that because you just said you don't know anything. No, I know one thing. And the one thing that I do know is that I don't know anything other than that one fact. Okay? That's the only thing. So you can phrase it in such a way to immunicize. Is that even a word? No. The idea from paradox. So every statement except for this one is false. So, well, but prove that. I don't have to. Yes, you do. No, everything else is false. It's the only true statement. Can't say anything else because everything else is false. But you just said something there. Yeah, yeah, I know it's false. If it's not that statement, it's all false. But I know. Okay, so the idea that a person cannot hold a view because it is logically contradictive, I would love if that was true. But it's not. You can hold ideas that make no dang sense to anybody but yourself, or even that they don't make sense to yourself. Can you live that way? Is a different question. People criticize Nietzsche that, well, you're not really a nihilist because you're not living in a way that is true to nihilism. If nothing really matters, then why would you look both ways when crossing the street? Or why would you eat anything or do anything at all? Why wouldn't you just lie down and die? Maybe he had an answer to that, I don't know, but it doesn't matter if he doesn't live that way. He can still believe that nothing ultimately matters. And how he lives is irrelevant to what his position is that he has written and that he believes. You don't have to live according to your belief, even though that seems like something that doesn't work. It's like, well, if you're a Republican and you're voting nothing but Democrat, then are you really a Republican? You're not living like you're a Republican. So what do we do there, right? But people aren't these containers that we can just put into the little pegboard of circles and triangles and squares, and they all fit nicely. I wish it was that way. I do, because it would make logic a lot easier to do. I'd just be like, nope, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, and people would be like, well, darn, I'm wrong. But if they don't understand or know logic or care about logic, you can tell them that they're wrong all day long, and they'll be like, yeah, what the bleep are you talking about? Somebody that believes 2 plus 2 is 5,000 and wants to believe that and has made sense of that in their own brain, and that's the end of that, they just, well, okay, well, what can you do? There's nothing you can do there. Some people are that way. So I just object to this idea that just because it's a self-defeating position that somebody doesn't hold it. They shouldn't hold it might be the better way to go about saying that. It isn't something that somebody cannot hold. It's just something that they should not hold because it's logically contradictory. You can hold any position you want. Period. You're allowed to. You're able to. Humans can do amazing things with their brains. We can hold ideas that don't make any dang sense to anybody. But whether we should or shouldn't do that because of logic is a different matter. So if you care about logic and if you understand logic, then you should understand that your position is one that is logically contradictive. Therefore, you should not hold it. There you go. Much better way to say that. Moving on. Criterion 1. Idle speculation in Christianity. How do the claims of the New Testament and Christianity hold up under Huxley's first criterion? When the legal/historical methods for determining truth are applied to the New Testament, it stands very firm under Huxley's standard. The writers of the New Testament never state that their beliefs are based on hearsay, or were the events that could not be authenticized. Quite the opposite, as Apostle, just as Peter said, for we did not follow cleverly devised tales when we made known to you the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we were eyewitness to his majesty. 2 Peter 1:16. The disciples recorded occurrences that happened in the actual space/time, saw those events with their own eyes, and recorded it, Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, so others would know the truth of what happened. I'm in the middle of reading this. We can wait. In terms of hold on. I guess I have to interrupt this reading. Yeah, what do you want?
Hey, how's it going? Did you know that the disciples really wrote everything and that the Bible is completely perfect and without any flaws and has no contradictions at all?
No outright lie. Please, tell me more.
Yeah, clearly the disciples wrote everything down, and then even though it was like 70, 80 years later, they somehow wrote it down, and we know that they wrote it down, and they said that they didn't make it up, so obviously they didn't make it up because they said that they didn't make it up. Why would they say that they didn't make it up if they made it up? That makes perfect sense.
Hey, outright lie. I have a riddle for you. What rhymes with stick?
What rhymes with stick, lick, slick, and I can't say the last one because it would be offensive to people.
Don't forget about click. Alright, anyways, so back to the video. In terms of falsification, really, the Apostle Paul gave the enemies of Christianity a single truth claim that, if proven untrue, would destroy Christianity in an instant. But if there is no resurrection of the dead, not even Christ has been raised. And if Christ has not been raised, then our preaching is in vain, your faith is also in vain. 1 Corinthians 15:13 through 14. Paul says if the resurrection of Christ did not occur, then the Christian faith is literally empty, vain. That, Paul says, is how Christianity can be falsified. Find the body of the Jewish carpenter, and the Christian faith is undone. But earlier in that same chapter, Paul actually challenges his readers of that day to go check for themselves the tomb of Jesus was truly empty. He appeared to Cephas, then to the 12. After that, he appeared to more than 500 brethren at one time, most of whom remain until now, but some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, then to all of the apostles, and last of all, as one to untimely born. What? He appeared to me also. 1 Corinthians 15:5 through 8. Paul is literally asking his readers to verify his claim with many others, over 500 alive at that time, who saw Christ and could act as witnesses to validate the fact that Jesus' resurrection actually occurred in space/time history. But, given that we cannot do that today, how can modern day people know that Paul and the apostles were telling the truth? The apostles answer that question through their grave markers. All except John were martyred for their testimony. People may be deceived and die for a lie, but no one dies for what he knows is a lie. All the apostles had to do was save their lives, was recant their testimony, and say they didn't see Jesus alive, but none did. Greater evidence for believability cannot be had. Alright, logical fallacy counter, time to reappear. Okay, so let's start with circular reasoning. We're going to use the Bible to show that the Bible is true. So the Gospels, we're going to pretend like they were really written by the apostles, even though we have no idea who wrote them, because the earliest we have is 70 years, 80 years later after these events. That's the earliest writings we have, maybe a little bit earlier than 70 years afterwards, but still, we don't have the originals. If we don't have any signatures. We don't know who wrote these documents, but it certainly wasn't the apostles, because they would have been dead by then if we're to believe the martyrdom story that we're being told, which is just that. It's a story that has zero corroboration, except for Christians that say that it happened. As far as I know, there is nothing to verify that any of the disciples or apostles were beheaded or that they actually existed. Let's move on to the ad populum, the appeal to these 500 anonymous people that supposedly were still around. They says the person writing this challenges the readers to go and verify this is true by asking any of these 500 people, whose names and addresses we don't know. But never mind, you know who I'm talking about. Now, it even says in the Bible that some of them fell asleep, which means some of them are dead by now. So whenever that particular bit was recorded, those witnesses supposedly existed. Some of them had died out. Okay, there's a lot of problems with this, beyond that it's an ad populum. But one that is glaring to me is it's irrelevant what 500 or whatever number people claim to have seen, because people can think that they have seen stuff that just hasn't happened. If you go to the Hindu places of worship, or if you went to there and you asked them, they would swear up and down that they'd seen the guru of their choice perform any number of miracles. You could get well over 10,000 people to say that. There was a whole bunch of people in Mexico that saw the sun do something weird or whatever, which might just have been a natural phenomenon, but only they saw it. You've got numbers of people that have claimed to see flying saucers, and you have people that have claimed to be abducted by aliens. You have numbers of people that claim to have seen Bigfoot. You have numbers of people that claim to see Nessie, and so on and so forth. So, big deal. So you've got some people that also believe in this nonsense that will back you up on it. And the other problem I have is, who the bleep is reading this book or listening to them talk about this that would even care enough to go falsify their claim? Yeah, if you don't believe me, you can talk to any of these people. Well, I don't believe you. Why should I talk to them? I'm not going to believe them either. You know, it's not like I'm an investigative reporter or anything. You're just one more crazy cult among all these other crazy cults that are around. I'm sorry, but Christianity was too small when it first started for anyone to have taken any notice of it or to care. There were no critics of it that early in the formation. The critics of it would have just been, it's one more religion among many, whatever, who cares, let them do whatever, they're not hurting anyone. Maybe there was a few, but who would bother to read what they had written down or to try to prove a negative, which brings me to the next fallacy: shifting the burden of proof. Go prove that Jesus is dead. No, you prove that he's freaking alive, man. Don't give me 500 people that saw him alive, or however many, all the apostles, and then the 12, and the disciples, and whoever else. Just have him come up and say hi to me. How about that? No, he's gone already. He went up into heaven. So sorry, he's not around anymore. So we can't do that. So I don't know. Maybe we don't have a scenario that is impossible to disprove because it's a negative. Joseph Smith claimed that he found a bunch of golden plates. And where are they? Well, they went back into heaven. They got beamed up into heaven, so you can't see them yourself. Only he was allowed to see them. Well, but we know that that story is made up. How do you know that? You can't prove that the plates weren't really there. See? Shifting your burden of proof. You know, it's like you can't disprove that if you sing I'm a Little Teapot short and stout in your backyard in your underpants and spin around counterclockwise 3 times and then upload the video of you doing that to YouTube, that you won't live to 1112. You can't prove that that won't happen unless you try it. What do you have to lose? Go try that. Make sure you link me that video so I can have my personal enjoyment of seeing you do that, and we'll just wait and see. Now, it's not how it works. Speaking of that's not how it works, let's talk about the outright lie. No! Die, stupid phone. No one dies for what they know is a lie. That's not true. It's just not true. It's not true. First and foremost, this is assuming, again, that the apostles really believed this stuff. So maybe they just really believed it. They didn't really know it was a lie, or they knew it was a lie deep, deep, deep down in their brain, but they've just cognitively dissonanced that part of their brain out of their head. Or maybe they just had no idea. Who knows? Any number of things, but I want to go ahead and tackle the idea that someone wouldn't die for a lie. That's not true. You or me or anyone else might know the truth about X, Y, or Z and won't tell the person torturing and killing me that truth. Well, that's concealing information. That's not lie. Yeah, but I could stop them from doing it. All I have to do is tell them the truth. Or I could tell them a lie. Although, even doing that might not stop them from killing me. I might just simply refuse to tell them that, yes, this was a lie, because I'm not going to give them the satisfaction. Because I'm going to die boldly that this is so important that I resist you that I'll die for this lie. This is just not true. People could do this. I'm sure people have done this. But let's not go off on that red herring, which is to focus on the idea that people wouldn't die for a lie. These people might not have even existed. So that's nothing. And plus, people have died for all sorts of beliefs in the past and in the present and probably will again in the future. That doesn't make the belief true. Oh, well, but it makes it mean that they knew it was true or they believed it really strongly. No, it doesn't even mean that. It doesn't mean anything at all. Speaking of things that don't matter, special pleading, eyewitness accounts. All these people saw it, which is just fine for us, but it's not fine for the Hindus, the UFO people, and the Bigfoot people, etc. Those eyewitnesses, they really are going to tell you the truth. The other eyewitnesses, no, that's not reliable. We know that's unreliable. But our eyewitnesses, totally that's fine. That brings me to the hasty generalization. The body's gone. The guy must have come back to life. He's a zombie because what else would you call somebody that was dead that came back? Okay, so Jesus wasn't eating brains, but still zombie. So yeah, well, we don't know where the body is. Clearly, he came back to life. I saw him. Oh, I did too. I heard him. I felt his presence. Yada yada yada. Really, really. So here's the thing. Let's just pretend that this event really did happen, which there's nothing to confirm that it happened, and more likely this story was simply just plagiarized from other stories of a similar nature that were around the same time as the writings that we have were. So maybe it's just another made up mythological story, but whatever. Anyways, let's pretend like it might have happened where this guy actually existed and actually was killed, actually was put in some sort of tomb, and enough people knew about it for somebody to care. And this guy or gal's like, hey, look, man, I don't believe you guys. You keep saying that this guy's alive. They're like, go check the tomb. They go over there. The body's missing. Oh, they're alive. No, there's just somebody stole the body. No, 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 no. See, if they stole, no, that doesn't make sense. No, did you steal? No, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Nobody did it. How do you know? All it takes is one guy to be like, I really miss our Messiah. I really miss the guy that led this movement. I'm gonna go to where he's buried. Oh, I can't believe he's dead. I want his body. Oh man, I can't keep it in my house. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna bury it in my backyard so it's close to me, and I'm not gonna tell anyone about it because it's my secret. And maybe I even feel so bad for doing it that I wind up killing myself, so nobody will ever know what I've done. It's so easy of an explanation, yet this explanation is just written off because clearly, if you don't find a body, that means the person's a zombie. I mean, alive. They've risen. Whatever. And we have special knowledge times 2, that the apostles actually existed and wrote the original documents, even though we don't have the original documents or any evidence that the apostles existed other than the Gospels. Again, I'm willing to be proven wrong on that the apostles existed. If you know of anybody that knows of anything that might show me that any of them existed. Now, John the Baptist, yes, because he's a separate historical figure that was put into this story. So I can be pretty sure that he existed, but the rest of them, fiction as far as I know. But if there's external evidence that these people existed, great. There should also be external evidence of their beheadings. Why they would be beheaded, I don't know. I thought that the Romans put people on crosses. But nonetheless, whatever. We know that the apostles wrote this stuff, even though we don't have the originals. That's definitely special knowledge, even if you could prove that the apostles existed. And knowing that they existed without such proof would be special knowledge. And of course, the personal incredulity. Why would they die for a lie? It must be true. The apostles wouldn't have died for a lie. It's gotta be true. They were martyred. They were killed. They were persecuted. Why would they not just... No, come on. Again, this is assuming a whole lot about the story to be true already, but you're adding another thing because you're just saying, well, but they wouldn't die for lies. Personal incredulity on top of everything else. I mean, I know I already complained about the whole apostle things, but this is another fallacy on top of all the other fallacies. And finally, I'm going to add another number there for another circular reasoning, because the article wraps up by saying it's all they don't lie. They said that they didn't lie. They wrote down that they didn't make any of this up. So why would they write down that they didn't make any of this up unless they didn't really make it up? So it's just the whole article, the whole thing that I just covered is circular reasoning, but then it's circular reasoning again after that. So I just want to make sure that I cover the fact that it's circular reasoning. This is circular reasoning 101. We're going to use this document to establish that this document is true. That's ridiculous. That's ludicrous. That's nonsensical. Alright, I've had it. I don't want to do any more. I'm at like 32 minutes, some odd. So I'm done. I'll just do the rest of this later. And look at the next part on this page where this person's going to cover the next true credentials of why be agnostic, and pretend like they're able to defeat those ideas by presenting piss poor apologetics. Robin. You know, I think you should just focus on helping Bruce Wayne rather than writing on Carm. Unless and until we have people in their underpants spinning around in circles counterclockwise singing "I'm a Little Teapot," we must continue to be skeptical of Batman.